Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce RevPamReynolds. This is somewhat of a tryout audition for us, but we've heard her before and we really love her. But we do want to hear what she has to say today. It's a wonderful day, the sun is shining, Pam is shining, so I think we're going to have a very good time.
And I'm not sure how much of this is yours. We'll get it straightened out here. We will. Well, actually, before Reverend Sharon left, she scheduled music and speakers for 2 months ahead. So that's really how I ended up here today. It was because Sharon had asked me to speak a couple times this month and a couple times next month. It may have grown into something a little more than that, but that's Reverend Sharon taking care of her congregation. And she also, with Jack, scheduled the music. So you're being well cared for, is what I'm saying. In the words of Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, when the way seems dark, pray for spiritual illumination and guidance, and bring all your thought people into the light. Have you ever heard that, thought people? You know those voices inside your head? Oh, let's just do one shoulder and the other shoulder. Bring all your thought people, all the worrisome thoughts, all the frightened thoughts, all the anxious thoughts, bring them into the light. Bring them into that light of Christ, the light of God. Eric was a young minister, and he decided to take piano lessons because he was concerned that there might be a Sunday morning when his music director or musician might get sick or not show up, and then he would have to fill in. So he decided to take piano lessons, and he did. And he was a serious, dedicated student, practiced every day. And this went on for about 4 or 5 years, and then his teacher said to him, "I've entered you into a competition." Oh, a thought person just jumped up on that one. No! And that's what he said to her. He said, "No, you're ready for this." And she was no doubt thinking, if you think you're going to sit down and play the piano for your congregation, you better get used to playing for people. And here's a good way to begin. So he practiced and he practiced and he practiced the piece, and he got there early, found a practice room, and sat and practiced and practiced. And then when it was his time, he got up and he sat down at the baby grand piano, sat down, and he started to play. And it was perfect. And then he totally forgot what was next. Well, we might call that a senior moment, but he probably wasn't old enough. What do you do? What do you do when that happens? Well, he decided to kind of forge ahead. It was not a good choice. He just didn't remember what came next. And after several failed attempts to continue, he turned to the judges and he apologized and said, "I'm so sorry, but I seem to have forgotten the piece. Would you like me to stop?" His teacher was sitting in the back of the room. She got up, quietly walked up to the front, up onto the platform, walked up behind him and whispered in his ear, and she said, "Don't worry, it's not too late. You can begin again." Oh, and he did, and it was perfect. It's not too late. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm sure you've had times in your life when it seems like what you thought you wanted or you thought you wanted to do wasn't happening. And I think our tendency is to either, one, give up, would you like me to stop, or we force it. Like he was trying to force the peace. We can feel closed in by an impossible situation. Maybe you got a diagnosis that says, this is terminal, this is serious. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe a loved one died. When a pilot is flying a plane and all they see are clouds, they can't see. There appears to be no way. They look for the corridor in the clouds. There's always some corridor, some path. Now, my father was a pilot, small private pilot, small aircraft private pilot, and he would say to me, you really want to be sure you can see where you're going. Because if not, you're going to encounter cumulus granite. You look for the path that's clear. And so the pilot's going to look for the way that he can see. Now, yes, they've got instruments, but it's kind of nice to have the visual as well. When we feel like we're stuck, it's okay. We can begin again. Get centered, calm down. God has provided a corridor for us. There is a path. There's a path to freedom or health or guidance or insight or answers, whatever we need, there's a path. So many times we say, show me the way. Let me know if I'm on the right path. Have you said that a few times? Sometimes there's a little shaking of the fist involved in that one. What am I supposed to be doing here, God? Show me the way. Make it clear. I have a friend, he's a classmate, ministerial school classmate, and we talk every Sunday, and she'll always say to me, I asked God for a bulletin board or a billboard, a neon billboard. I asked for skywriting. I asked for an obvious sign. I want something so clear, so easy, so obvious, I can't miss it. Well, the funny thing is, when she was trying to decide whether to take a church in Tennessee, she couldn't decide, do I do it, do I not do it? She said that in the space of 5 to 10 minutes in her car, she saw a billboard, move to Tennessee. She looked up. The truck she was following had a Tennessee license plate. And there was a third thing. She goes, okay, I get it. And she's in Tennessee with a church. You know, she keeps saying, make it easy and obvious. You know, easy and obvious. This doesn't have to be hard. We sometimes think it's got to be difficult, like God doesn't know, or God can't figure it out, or God's not smart enough to do this for us. And we forget who and what God is. Pray for illumination, go within. You know, Jesus did that all the time, always going within. He never really tried to say anything or solve anything just from his human self. So that's what we need to do, is connect with God within. So I'd like to read from the Gospel of Mark. I'm sure it's a story you're familiar with, but you might listen to see if this is sort of going on in your life. Man comes up and he says, Teacher, I brought you my son. He has a spirit that makes him unable to speak. And whenever it seizes him, it dashes him down and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. And I asked your disciples to cast it out, but they could not do so. He answered them, You faithless generation, how much longer must I be among you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him to me. And they brought the boy to him, and when the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked the father, How long has this been happening to him? And he said, From childhood. It has often cast him into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you are able to do anything, have pity on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you are able, all things can be done for one who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out, "I believe. Help my unbelief." Now we can read that story and know that child was probably epileptic. But they didn't have the knowledge we have now. And so the only thing they could assume is that he had an evil spirit who had controlled him. And the parents, loving their child, had done everything they could, brought him to the disciples who did everything they could. But I wonder if people got caught up in the appearance of what was going on. See, Jesus looked past appearances. Do you know he never asked for one diagnosis? Think about it. Do we have any story in the Gospels of where Jesus sat down and said, "Would you please start with your family history?" And isn't that the first thing you get asked as a new patient in a doctor's office? I hate those forms. I don't plan to repeat my family's history, medical history, thank you very much. If we believe, all things are possible. And believing means remembering who we are inside and where that Christ Spirit dwells. And looking past what the bank statement says, what the doctor says, whatever it is, look past it. I guess I do a fair amount of travel by plane. Kansas City and Seattle in particular. Families up in Seattle. And my main concern when I'm getting on a plane is, if I'm going north to Seattle, I want to be on the right side of the plane. You know why? Coming home, I want to be on the left. What am I looking for out the window?
Mountains. Mountains.
Mount Rainier. Love Mount Rainier. Never once when I get in an airplane do I worry about, does the pilot know his way? Kind of figured he's done his research. And they've done the planning, and they've checked out the plane, done the pre-check, and there's enough fuel and everything they need to do, and they've checked the weather. And the last thing I worry about is the air traffic controller. Now, maybe I should be saying a prayer that he didn't have a fight with his wife that morning, and he's had enough coffee. Pilot's best friend is the man in the air control tower. He's the one who has the eyes over the whole picture. He has the big picture. He knows the other planes, he knows the weather, and his job is to find the safest and most direct path for every plane. He guides them, he assures them, he directs them, he's in contact with them the whole way. He is impersonal. He has no favorites. Every plane depends on him, and he guides them all. He's concerned with the well-being of every person on every plane. And he guides the pilots through every change until they land, as long as they listen to him. Oh. Does that description sound a little like the way we describe God?
Yes.
You know, impersonal, big picture, caring, guiding, directing, no favorites. That's the presence that's within us, that's the guide. We're often looking through the knothole in the fence. And we're focusing on the problem. Let's see, where's my problem? Oh, there's my problem. Oh yeah, not remembering there's all of this out here. There's many possibilities, many options, many resources. And we think that, well, if God told us last week, or we got the feeling we should do thus and so, But that's all we need to know. We sort of forget, though, that between last week and this week, we've grown and we've changed and our circumstances are a little different. So it means we really need to go back to God again. The pilots don't say to the air traffic controller, thanks, bye. See you next time I'm here. They go from one to the next to the next. Each one impersonal, caring, guiding, knowing the big picture. Sometimes when we get guidance on something, we think that's all we need, and we kind of say, okay, God, thanks, I'll get back to you in a day or two. Yeah, we know that's true. Yeah. Rather than cultivating a relationship that's constant with that presence, constantly listening, constant tuning in, constantly feeling for that presence. Sometimes because we got some guidance, we'll go, well, that worked before, let me try that again. Well, sometimes that works, but sometimes because you're different than when you were last month, and the circumstances have changed, you kind of need to go back and get some more inspiration. You're still looking through the knothole. And meanwhile, things are changing. Apostle Paul said, one thing I do, forgetting the things which are behind and stretching forward to the things which are before, I press on. In other words, he's saying, I don't look back and dwell on what's there and stay on what's there. I keep pressing forward. I keep moving forward. We too must reach for the greater truth, the larger realization. Sometimes we think our prayers aren't answered and we feel like we're caught in a Groundhog Day kind of an experience. Do you remember what he needed to do to get out of that Groundhog Day experience? He had to change what he was doing. Oh, that word change. I would throw that awful word out there. We can get a little stuck in our way, a little stuck in our response, a little stuck in our relationship with God without realizing that we're changing and we need to be open to a changing relationship, a deeper relationship, a bigger relationship. And sometimes there's just too many voices. Sometimes there's too many people telling us what to do. And sometimes I have to say to a friend, thank you. I really didn't share this with you so you could tell me what to do. I just wanted a safe place to kind of process. Now, if I want your advice, I'll ask it. But I'll be specific about what I'm asking for because I know you're the one that could help me do it. What would you do in this situation? What do you think about this? But when people just jump in and try to fix it for me, it's not fixing it. It's making an assumption that they've got the big picture. Heck, I don't even have the big picture. What I really need is the support to go within to reconnect. Because I need to listen to my inner voice, because even if I take your advice, as wonderful as it is, as well-meaning as it is, eventually I'm going to have to go back to my own inner guidance. That's something Unity people understand. I guess because we've had enough experience with trying to do it the other way. And we get that we can't fix everybody. We can love them and support them and encourage them. And that's really what I'm looking for when I have a question. In Proverbs 3:5-6, it says, lean on, trust in, and be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. In all your ways, know, recognize, and acknowledge him, and he will direct and make straight and plain your path in all ways. This isn't important enough for God. Oh yeah, everything is. Where does God reside? God's with us as that presence, that knowing, that wisdom every moment. It's not like we can hide from a present that indwells us. Let's embrace it. Let's accept it. Myrtle Fillmore, when the way seems dark, pray for spiritual illumination and guidance, and search for that corridor in the clouds. God bless.